Hey guys, it's GHP and welcome to our Dead Reckoning review. Today I'm joined by Hulkbuster and the Overmaster.
Yo.
Alright, so we're just going to start with fire cards, going through the collection, just give our opinion and how playable they will be. One interesting thing is Overmaster hasn't thought about this at all, or hasn't seen all the cards yet.
I've been playing Path of Exile. Sorry, guys.
And I've been in school, I haven't thought much either. So there's going to be a lot of first impressions.
To be fair, we got most of the cards today, so I don't think anyone has very crystallized thoughts on the matter.
Yeah,
that's true.
So let's get started with Boar. When you look at Boar as a 1-mana kill an enemy attachment, is cool. We have Ruin. Ruin's bad.
Should we maybe read the cards before we?
Yeah, let's try this again. Why not? So it's 1 mana, 1 fire for a spell, so not fast. Kill an enemy attachment, and you create and draw a copy of this card when you play it, and you discard it at a turn. So what this really means is that you could play it equal to X times at a turn, which is equal to the amount of mana you have access to.
Oh, it's a Shattering Spree?
Oh, it's a Shattering Spree.
Shattering Spree, that's what... Yeah.
Ah,
yeah, it's Shatter
I
Spree.
do it twice.
No.
That's pretty cool.
So it's, if you compare it to Ruin, which is kind of the obvious one, this is slow speed, but has the upside of being able to do it multiple times. Ruin is not particularly powerful except in the right metagames where it then becomes very good. I think Boar is one of those cards that's probably not good right now, and probably is never going to be good for ladder play. But if you look at it from a tournament standpoint, if we have a bunch of decks like Temporal Control and Armory that really start caring about their attachments, this card becomes very good, and being able to come down and maybe go, kill your Stronghold Visage, kill your Temporal in one turn, with one card, technically, is absurdly powerful. Although this card's probably never good enough to main deck on ladder, I think this card has tournament implications, and it feels like another one of these safety valve cards that lets them go, okay, we're going to really push some attachments because we have this really good answer to them now. So I think Boar is a pretty good card, and I think it's going to see some play, but only in tournaments.
I think actually there's a ton of hidden upside in this card because what it does, like, it's very good versus plate decks and stuff like that. Like the FUP plate deck, for example, this card is pretty good because you can use it to pop Aegis on all of the units wearing weapons and then get rid of the weapon. It lets you deal with permafrost. There's a ton of like random upside on this card that you can't really get on something like Ruin because, like, Ruin is a terrible card versus a plate deck with Aegis because you just pop the Aegis and the weapon's still there. But with this card, if they have like 2 units with weapons or like you can pop the Aegis, take the weapon, to pop another Aegis. There's a ton of random upside there. But I don't know. I see this card being a really, really strong sideboard card. Actually, like I think Magnitude's better than what Ruin was.
Yeah.
Like access to this card makes a whole lot of more difference than the type of relic removal we've seen so far. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, this is crazy good, honestly.
I will say that if the card works, like if you use it on Aegis, something with Aegis, and you don't get another copy, it gets
I was gonna ask that question. I think it's worded correctly, but like I don't actually know.
I think it works how we want it to.
I have no idea. I need to try it out before I...
Well, cards like Levitate, you still draw the card.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
my thought is, kill an attachment is the effect that gets negated. Create and draw is like the draw card.
Yeah, and then create and draw a copy of Boar is part of
that happens, it's like 2 instance effects, so probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think this card is pretty incredible, to be honest. I mean, I think we need a Shattering... No, we didn't need a Shattering Spree at this point. Shattering Spree is basically the same card, but in Magic. Yeah, I don't think we needed a Shattering Spree right now, but in case a deck comes along that requires a bunch of relics or something like that, and I mean, getting rid of 2 obelisks is always really nice. Like, whenever an obelisk death plays the second obelisk, you're just like, oh my god, why? Well, I only have one attachment removal if I draw it, right? Whereas Boar can actually get rid of all of them, and you're right back in the game. Things like that are gonna happen a lot. Like, and if it can pop Aegis, you can get rid of weapons and stuff. Yeah, this card's gonna.
I also
This
think
card's a lot of tournament play.
it's a really nice design because it really doesn't hurt like control. Like if you were to print a really good relic removal card, that would kind of hurt like fire as a control color a lot or whatever. Like, but the way this card is worded versus like decks like Armory and other big fire decks that are normally afraid of relic removal, it's not that much better than Ruin. Because most of the time those decks have one weapon or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
It's a cool design in the sense that it's really only better versus other decks, which I think is interesting. I don't know. I'm really proud of Direwolf for this design. I think it's super cool.
Yeah, against relic weapon based decks, Ruin is basically the same as Boar against those decks because you can only have one relic weapon out at a time, right? So unless they have an Aegis on their face, right? In terms of a Carrier Blue, this is actually much better against a Carrier Blue because they have the land that
yeah, exactly.
can get Aegis.
There it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, little things like that.
It works like we think it does.
It is slow though.
Yeah, so like you take your 8 from your die show, but you beat it through the Aegis. Like, interesting toss up. But I do think this card is like, I don't think Ruin exists anymore. Because the amount of times where this is going to be better than Ruin will outweigh that time you get die show to death.
Yeah. But it's not like this card is the death of the mass deck.
Caleb's Intervention was already out, so it was better than Ruin anyway, right? Because it had the random upside. Besides, I obviously wasn't a fastball, but I just think that the Caleb's Intervention is just much better than Ruin, and Boar is just
better than both.
Better than both.
Alright, I think we've talked about this card enough. Card's awesome.
Yeah, I was just surprised at how good it was. Because when I read it the first time, I was very like, that's just a random... Like, I just kind of shrugged.
Well, here's a card that I kind of shrugged about a little bit. So, Oni Dragonsmith. It's a 1-mana 1/1 in fire, but it's an Oni. That's relevant. Shaman isn't relevant yet. But Dragon's costing 1 less is interesting, and the Dragon ally of getting +2/+1 and quick draw is powerful. So, on its best day, it's a 1-mana 3/2 with quick draw that has Oni synergy and could be like an Initiative of the Sands card. I think especially an aggressive dragon deck, maybe an Oni dragon deck especially, because the Oni, like, we do see that they're trying to print Oni payoff cards, like, what's the card called? Is it Kyogen?
Yeah, something like that.
Like, this card I think is really good in that scenario. This is the first taste of dragon synergy we've gotten, I believe, as well. So I don't have a ton to say about this card because the cards to make this card good don't exist right now. We don't have cheap dragons that are good. And it's not what one.
There's one 4-power dragon in the game.
Oh, Crimson.
Crimson Fire Maw is actually insane with this. You can bring Soulfire Drake back to its amazing. Go ahead, Hulk, though.
Nah, I don't know if the GHP was finished.
I wasn't. I don't think this card has the cards right now to support it fully. Like, I don't think it's good enough to just play in an Oni deck. Unless if you're playing Fire on that deck, maybe it's good enough there. But I think this card one day is going to be very good. It's super powerful. But I just don't think the cards are there yet.
Yeah. I have a hard time evaluating this. Like, I think anyone can agree that the nut curve is very powerful, and it almost gets better by the fact that there aren't a ton of good early game dragons, because like you don't really want to spend a removal spell on this ever, but like if you end up torching this guy versus a fire deck in the early terms, you don't feel great about that because you wasted like actual interaction on a card that's not going to be relevant a moment at a time. But if you make the curve out with it, like the turn free Fire Maw when you have this guy in play is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But it's also really hard to conjure a list around it. Like I don't know how I guess it would be some kind of Skycrag deck probably.
I think so.
'Cause
I think you actually
you
make
have
this
the
into
5
Felnscar, but
What's the shadow for?
Voprex and
Harbinger?
Black Sky Harbinger.
Volprex. Black Sky, I can agree. Volprex is a stretch, but it's actually an idea.
You
But
can't really you can't really splash Voprex
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, like I think if you want to play this card and you want to have the body be actual upside. If the ally part's not good for you, then I think the card is just straight up bad.
Yeah, it's
Like,
worse than
you need
initiate.
to want-
Yeah.
You need to want the free 2 quick draw, which is like a really good card in an aggressive deck. That's why I think the curve is so powerful. Like playing a Fireball 1 turn earlier is good, but at the end of the day, it's not crazy. But the fact that this guy turns into fucking free 2 quick draw
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it's I think the card is great. I just like you said, the support isn't really there, but a list might show up where this card is just amazing. It's I'm certainly gonna explore it, but it might also just like stumble and fall for the moment. It's hard to say.
The problem is that there's no 3-cost dragons, and I know that's kind of not really where dragons are supposed to be, right?
But it's relevant.
You start at 4 for Crimson Firemaw. You've got Pouncing Drake, which is actually not a bad card, right?
Yeah, that
That's
card's
actually a
pretty
good card, and when you could cheat it, like,
Yeah,
that's a good card.
it's a really good card. In Primal, you get Magus of the Mist, which is actually, I mean, yeah, sure, there's the random downside of you losing,
Is he a dragon?
but yeah, no, actually,
He's not a
no,
dragon.
He's not a dragon.
He's like
That
an
would be
elemental or
pretty great.
something.
Yeah, that would have been really good. Pearlescent Drake is not bad too.
Pearlescent is a good card.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like that's the card you want to ramp out.
I mean, you don't really want to be playing things like Sapphire Dragon in your deck just to get random value because that card's pretty bad.
There-
and
there
constructed.
is some,
Thunderstrike.
there's gonna be a card later here. The missed something. I can't remember his name now, but the 2/2 that turns into a 5/5 if you have Aegis, which makes you want to maybe play
Whoa.
Mistveil Drake in it. I could see like a random hybrid list there. That's
Yeah.
actually not bad. I think there might be something going on there. I'm not entirely over. I don't know. There's
I know that playing a 1-cost 1/1 that reduces stuff, right? If you can play 2 things that are reduced by 1, it's already made its back its value, and also you get the random upside of it becoming a 3/2, right? So it's not a bad card, but I think, like GHP said, the support's not quite there yet, but it could be there eventually.
It's also really nice in like a pseudo control deck in the sense that if you have a dragon in play, it's a really really cheap blocker / attacker. Like if you have something in play and then you end up wisdoming and you draw like I don't know, it makes card draw really good in the mid game because if you have a dragon in play, it's so easy to just like put actual power on the board very cheaply.
Yeah.
I will say it's if you're not looking for the curve, but you're rather just like looking for the mid game upside, I think it's a pretty decent card too. It's not the worst top deck ever, which is nice.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've talked about that card enough. We're a fan. Want to talk about? I'm gonna make this one quick. I don't know if anyone's gonna disagree. Tripwire Grenadin is a really bad card, in my opinion.
I thought that this card was a 1/1, which would have made it a lot better because you could. Oh. Okay.
I'm a pretty big fan actually.
I compare this okay, I know it's not the same card, but Firemane Cub is not a particularly good card. I know this is better stats in the Entomb and can go face, but the reason Firemane Cub is bad is because it's not actually that good against aggro decks. And my fear with Tripwire Grenadin is I actually don't think it's that good against aggro decks. And that's where you'd want a card like this.
No, but
I feel I just don't like. There's so
You
many
can deal
cards
2
like
damage on the turn that you play it.
It replaces Torch in Grenadin, right? Because you can, if you have Combustion Cell with this, you can just play it, sacrifice it, so it's free, and you get to kill 2 small things.
I don't agree. I don't think okay. The magical Christmas line scenario for this card is absurd. It could be kill 3 units for your 2 power card, sure. but I think this card is just too low impact. Like, outside of aggro, it's really bad, even though it pops Aegis. But I think, like, the fire control decks, because that's the only time you'd want on a card like this, in my opinion, and I'm including Grenadins there, don't really need this. Like, if you're playing, I'm just going to go through, like, Skycrag has Hailstorm, which we'll talk about, Lightning Storm if you want it, Torch.
What's the 2-cost 2-1 called?
Sparkcatcher, and I think this is worse than Sparkcatcher.
Do you?
I think that Sparkcatcher is like so bad that Grenadin Index shouldn't even play it right now.
They don't want to play it, but I think it's better than this card. I just don't think Tripwire Grenadin does very much.
I mean, this card has like upside. Like I think they said in some podcast or the other, the fact that Grenadin plays Madness Combust means that Aegis is actually really good versus that deck. So having the random upside of just having a card that can easily pop Aegis.
Yeah,
that's definitely true.
Yeah, and it's like I think a myth with Grenadin is that they're good versus aggro, which is just, I don't know, false. To me, it feels like if you want to beat Grenadin, you just play anything that presents a lot of early game.
It's good against aggro decks that don't have flying.
Or Overwhelm.
Sure. Well, Overwhelm's fine usually. But
is it even good versus Skycrag? Maybe it's good versus Skycrag, so maybe you don't really need this type of card there. But I still think it's pretty nice to be able to replace Torch with like something that actually furthers your game plan. Because this is kind of does the same thing as Torch or as the Sparkcatcher, because that card was kind of there as a stopgap anyway. And the upside of like popping Aegis in late game, I really like this card, but I only like it in Grenadin. I don't think there's any other deck that wants it outside of, I don't know, if you want a sideboard card versus really go wide aggro decks and some kind of.
You want Grenadin drones anyway, right?
Yeah, if you're doing that, you just take Grenadin drone again. Like if you're playing removal pile, which one of those two cards are you gonna play?
I'd rather have the Tripwire.
That's interesting.
I think it goes into more matchups.
That's interesting. This is one of the first cards in any of these reviews that we've disagreed on.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna go slot straight into Grenadin, like Cog said. Like I think that this is better than Sparkcatcher.
And I think it's worse than Sparkcatcher and not gonna see play. This is interesting.
I mean, I guess there are matchups where it's worse. I just think Sparkcatcher is such a bad card.
Sparkcatcher is bad.
It's
there to fill a role, and it's not really very good, right? So
it's like we need to play another early game Grenadin, and this is the best we could find. So I guess, but like I don't know, I like the Grenadin list that play like interaction in that slot a lot more. I've seen some sabotage or stuff like that. Yeah. I think that makes a lot more sense.
When I first came up with the Grenadin list or whatever, my version of the Grenadin list, like really early on, like Sparkcatcher was one of the the last cards I added because I was like, I need this. Like I don't want to put it in, but I need it, right? And now we might have an actual card that's better than it. We'll see.
Interesting.
I'm definitely gonna test it for sure.
Well, either I'm gonna get a message that that you guys are right, or I get to laugh at you guys. I like cards where we're not sure though. I think this is cool, but I think it's time to move on to our next card.
Yeah.
I do want to say though that I don't think Grenadin is necessarily a very good deck. Like I think there's maybe some Grenadin splashing time, like another evolution of that deck out there somewhere that's probably really good. But the way the deck is now, I'm not a huge fan of it. So I don't know if this is what the deck needs to push it over the edge. Like I don't.
Man, I've tried blue. I've tried time. Doesn't really add that much. That's Obelisk, which is not good.
The Praxis and kind of
yeah, it's a different style.
Yeah. That's double time and stuff. Like it's kind of hard to splash that card.
Well, want to talk about splashing a card? I'm kidding. Let's talk about Memento.
I don't even know what this. I have no idea. This card makes me confused.
Unplayable.
I think this is unplayable. Yep.
I mean, it's a bad card, but it's also a deck, right? I don't know.
I don't think Nick Detraxian plays this card, and if Nikto doesn't play it, it's not playable.
Exactly. I agree. Like even in Strangers, it doesn't.
Strangers
work in Strangers.
Strangers has good power.
Yeah.
But like, is there some type of control deck that really wants a weird like? I could see this card being like if just as an example, this is
For
not gonna
faction
happen,
control.
No, but say like Big Combre really wants access to a double faction, another is something like Snow Crash Animist. I could see this card being like a way to force that connection.
That's interesting.
If there's a really powerful card that's completely outside your faction pool, I could see
like
this being
Black Sky Harbinger against aggro decks.
Exactly.
Yeah, Black Sky's more reasonable, but I understand where you're going. It's
sweet, actually.
That's an interesting idea, and then you never have to play a harsh rule, for example, in your list. Smiley face.
Exactly.
The issue is 4 mana do nothing. I think generally this card's not going to see play. I do think there's that like fringe scenario that it could, but I think the fringe scenario is not Nikto.
No, it's but Nikto Connection is just a bad card.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on because
it's not a good card.
Let's move on to a card that really interests me, and that's Venom Rider.
Let me read this card.
I'll read it to you, Overmaster. It's a 4-mana 3/3 deadly charge in time. So time got removal, but ultimate pay 5, give it -1/-1 to play a 1/1 deadly killer. So I'm gonna tell you very briefly what I think of this card. Who the hell made this? 2. This card is not playable in like Big Combre, but where does it see play? Well, there's this weird 3-faction deck, and it goes -4 Soulfire Drake, +4 Venom Rider, Charge Rod.
Huh.
This is good in Charge Rod. Very good.
Deadly Rod? Did we not talk about
We
Deadly?
did, but it also actually goes in Deadly Rod if that deck ever exists. But I genuinely think Charge Rod is now going to play 4 of this. It's better than Soulfire, because after the nerf.
100,000 times better than Soulfire Drake.
And like,
it actually goes better in that deck.
Exactly.
Yeah, it stalls the game too. Like, I think this card's, it's not good in a lot of decks, like Elysian doesn't want this or anything like that, but I think especially in Charge Rod, this card's super powerful.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say you could even maybe try it in Chalice. It's interesting there.
Pay 5, make it chaliceable.
Yeah, there's some random upside there. Like 9 mana, play this, get a removal spell and a chaliceable target. You know.
How was the cost of Sandstrider? Oh my god, why is it 5?
What?
What's Sandstrider?
It's a 5-mana 1/1 deadly killer. So you say I can't scream it?
No, it wasn't the screamable thing. Remember that deck that I made in set 2 with the memory dredger and the deadly units and stuff?
That's cool.
That would have been so good.
That's really cool. I don't know why it's 5 mana. Maybe it's for stuff like that. Maybe they think it's abusable, because that seems really weird design.
Even the -1/-1 thing is kind of like, if you get it back from the graveyard, you can only ultimate it 3 times, and then it's a 0/0. I don't know.
This card has a lot of safety valves built in.
Yeah, they saw through my ruse.
I didn't actually check the Sandstrider. I assumed it was going to be a one mana card. That's really interesting. They put a bunch of safety valves on the card.
Actually, the rate on the card is not bad either.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't compare it to Titan because that's dumb. Yeah. But besides Titan, this is like it's fine. It trades with everything.
Yeah, I don't know. As a control card, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think this card's good.
Time control card, yeah.
Maybe it's better than what I thought it was too. The more I think about it, I think this card's definitely playable. It's just a good card.
Weird.
You can pay 5 to kill something through Aegis. Yeah. Like that's
on a body. Yeah, I think this card's good.
And then you can Dark Return it back, and you get another use out of it.
Yeah,
if you Dark Return it back, you also get rid of the -1/-1 card, so you can actually, you can continue to recur it like that, but you can't recur it. Is there a way to reduce the cost of it, Kappa? Wait, screaming it back. Damn.
Yeah, you can scream this. It's not the best scream target, but you could. I think so. We've kind of come to the conclusion that when we talked about this card has a lot of potential.
Yeah,
I think it's good.
I think Charge Rod is a really good. Like, the more I think about it, the more I think that's actually really good.
It's 4 of a Charge Rod, easiest decision of my life.
And I think you might actually like see playing big Combre too. Like it might
As a
replace some of it,
cyber
because
card. Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
there are meta games where this is better than Titan in that deck.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like Titan is a more powerful card, but for sure there are meta games where this card is better. Because it's also like random upside against weapon-based decks that you can just charge in and kill their weapon. I don't know. Charge is so powerful to have on random units in this game because of the way weapons work.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one. We probably should try to keep this half-fast. We're 25 minutes in.
I like long videos, but that's
Oh, I know, but I have a TV show to watch in an hour and 10 minutes.
what show?
Survivor.
You watch Survivor?
Wait, that show's still
Yeah, it's something I've always watched with family, but let's keep going. Bury the past. This card's crap.
We hit a nerve there. I'm playing. This card is garbage. Or something.
It's trash. Just let's do it this way.
Removal in time.
6 mana, triple time. So imagine if this was a Cardosaur. Do I have to say anything else?
Yeah, it does something kind of unique. I don't think there's any other thing that puts something on the bottom of the library. But the way the game is now, I don't see why you would ever want it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Next card. Next card is oh.
I think we're gonna disagree on this card too.
You and I discussed this card, didn't we? So I discussed this card a bunch in my video about it, and I think this card's crap. I don't think Valkyries really wants this card, and if like a card that's built to be in the Valkyries deck doesn't work that well with the other Valkyries in the game, then it's not good. I think the ability to turn it on is really hard. I think it being double justice on turn 2 is difficult. And I don't think the ultimate is that good. A lot of people said this card was a 5-drop, and hopefully it'd be a 4-mana 4/3 flying endurance on 5 that ramps you 1. But I don't think I'd play that card either. So I'm just gonna go with I don't think this card's gonna see any play.
I think this is a spell, and that's where people are tripping up. Like, first of all, it's like it could be really good in Chalice. Is where because we've seen how powerful Endurance is in that deck. But I think that the main reason this card might see play, where I'm a pretty big fan. I don't know really where I'd stall it in yet, but it's the fact that if you play this on 2 versus a deck that's afraid of Harsh Rule, they kind of have to kill it, because if they want to develop their board normally, they have to let you ramp on turn 3, which means a turn 4 Harsh Rule, which means that they can't develop their board. So they kind of have to kill her. And even if, like, a lot of the time you probably won't even ultimate her because your hand doesn't want to. But the fact that she threatens turn 4 Harsh Rule, I think, is really powerful. And then there's the random upside of like being Endurance. So she's good in Chalice, and you can draw her, and a 4/3 is a real threat in the late game, even though it's kind of small. Like, I'm not sure she's gonna see play, but the fact that everyone has been like, "Oh, this card is awful," just sits so wrong with me, because I think it's a pretty good spell. Like, if there's any faction that wants ramp in the game, it's Justice. It's not.
That's
Time.
true.
Like, Secret Pages would probably be played in Justice, I think. Yeah. And then the upside of plussing Valkyries, I don't know.
I don't think that's relevant.
That's not relevant at all. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
I just want to chime in for a second. The only issue, like, Chalice, I think you're right. Like, the best home for this card might be Chalice. The problem is, I don't really know if it's better than the rest of the cards, and Double Justice is difficult.
The Double Justice is the biggest strike against the card for sure.
Yeah.
I think the reason she is Double Justice is probably because it might have been too good in Chalice if it was single.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that this card kind of suffers from the fact that it has Double Justice as its cost. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna see any play. Unfortunately, I don't think the rates are there for everything. Like, yeah, it is powerful to ramp, but for 5 mana spread over 2 turns, I don't think it's that great. Wherein you have Secret Pages, which you can do you can just splash Secret Pages and you can do the same kind of things and whatnot. I don't think that this card's very good.
All
I'm
right.
sorry, Hulk. I'm disagreeing with you.
No,
I'm
that's
agreeing
fine.
with you.
Like it's the biggest part about it is trying to find like which cards you would cut to put this in your deck. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about our next one? Honor the Fallen. I'm just.
Also, I want to say best art in the game. Probably, I love the art.
I think it's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
That's.
Yeah,
I think
that is-
that's definitely one of. I haven't thought about like a comeback on that yet. But what is
honestly the big reason I say it is because I think the regular Ikoria might be the worst art in the game. It's so ugly.
it's bad.
It's like stupid how bad it is. So I think it's interesting.
So
Anyway,
4 mana. I'm gonna go with just. Well, let's say what it does. Because one of your units, the battle skills of each unit you void. This reads like you're supposed to play this with Crown of Possibilities.
Bisma.
Or Bisma. I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. I think this card's very, very win more unless you have some OTK combo deck.
Yeah.
Which I think that's the only world it's good. And then I'm wondering why you aren't playing like is some sort of Righteous Fury deck just way more consistent. If Righteous Fury doesn't see play, I'm just gonna go with I don't think this card's playable. I think it's way too win more.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna see any play in a normal deck. It's not even fast, but if you can get something like double damage unblockable into your graveyard or double damage flying, I don't know. I don't know if it's the problem is we have 75 card decks, so cards like this always suck in this game. But the OTK potential is there. Maybe something like a Fire Justice Shadow, one turn hero of mentor of whatever deck.
Hero of the people, yeah.
Yeah, we play like Spore Folk and Hero of the People, and then
Oh
Righteous
God.
Fury.
Now we're cooking with gas. Sorry.
Yeah, it's still gonna be good, but I think that's the type of home you want to find for this deck. Maybe.
You're trying real hard to
mean,
get this.
Loco Pojo will probably find a home for this deck, and it will be a very
Discard
it will be a very
and
bad deck.
tomorrow in
But
the
it
same
will be.
deck.
I do like the potential of this with Sporefolk or whatever, but I still don't think
Yeah.
that's not. That's too random, and 75 card deck, like you said, is just gonna be.
Yeah.
It's just gonna throw this all way off, even if there is potential for it, right?
What I'm trying to say is it's not a card you're gonna play in a normal deck.
No.
You can try to break it if you want.
Yeah, that's its role. Let's talk about a really interesting one. Inquisitor's Blade. So it's a 4-mana 3/1 flying weapon. That's not the worst weapon I've ever seen. When it dies, it has Revenge Never Ends. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
So the one thing to note is if you have no targets in play when you draw this, I believe it just goes to your graveyard.
Yeah.
I think this card is powerful. The question is, we have this card called Hammer of Might. You don't play them in the same deck. Like, you have to pick one, I think. The question is, which one is better?
I don't think you can play more than 4 hammer.
I mean,
Mites.
there are so many decks where I would have killed to play more than 4 hammers. Like,
But I
think
just played
Arcana-
Deforge Plate.
Yeah, but not every deck has access to both Justice and Fire.
No, but then play Bloodletter. Like,
Time Justice aggro with 4 hammers and 4 of this.
This-
thing, all of a
yeah,
sudden,
okay.
that's a deck.
we got some support for that deck, so maybe we...
And giving something flying is so powerful.
Yeah,
Oh, this card is
now-
good.
I think this card's really good. I don't think it's like Summit 4 of in every Justice aggro deck ever, but you have to find the
No,
right one,
for
and I
sure.
think in the right one it's really good. It's also better often than Hammer against control decks sometimes, because it just can keep coming back. Which
I think
I just think this
think it
card's
might-
good. I don't have much to
this might
say.
Actually, replace Hammer in most of the lists that play Hammer. Even though I think Hammer is a really good card, and you probably in like a lot of lists you probably even want more. Like I think in my plate deck, Plate is a better card than Hammer. In normal Rakano, I think Hammer is just a better card than Plate. So I could see this replacing Plate even.
This seems really good in Rakano.
Yeah, because in Rakano, since you have no natural Aegis, you'd rather have a recurring effect on the weapon than a bigger effect on the weapon, because like at the end of the day, giving something a plate plus or a hammer plus is usually about the like they're still not gonna be able to block whatever you put it on, right?
Yeah.
Is there a way to return weapons from your graveyard to your hand?
Reforge.
Forge. And then this
Right.
has Destiny. That
no,
works.
but like a Tavrod, boom.
Yeah, but
You mill this, you use Reforge to bring it back, and it immediately comes into play.
why don't you
baby.
just take it with Tavrod and draw another card? And it keeps getting bigger.
You can rise for it too.
Yeah, I think this card's really
you
good.
can rise for it. That's insane. A 5/1.
Yeah, this
flying
card's
weapon?
good.
That's just. Yeah.
I think this card is I kind of dismissed this when I read it the first time, but
Yeah,
this
me
card
too.
is
Me too.
powerful.
All right,
The fact that it gives flying, ooh baby.
all right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another card.
There's even this random promo from ages ago. I don't know if you remember him, the Horu card.
Yeah.
Gets like
It's really good there.
Yeah, it might actually like pull him from. I don't know, there's options.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but we'll see.
All right, Ward Wielder. Two
I
mana,
love this card.
2 mana, 2/2.
Can I swear on this? Can I swear?
Go
on this
for it.
channel? This is fucked up. This card is fucked up. Holy shit.
It's so good.
So all right, this card is one of those cards that gets better with the game, like as the game goes, like as in more cards get released because it's easier to get face ages. I believe it's face ages.
Yeah, you have to. While you have an Aegis.
Yeah, so this card is absolutely absurd with Aegis, 2 mana 5/5. We're like better than Hearthstone here. This encourages you to play cards like Mistvale Drake, maybe Island Favor over Seek Power in your aggressive Unseen deck. But, and you obviously play 4 Cobalt Waystone. But, this card is really good in the decks that actually could support the Aegis. Obviously, if you can't support Aegis, a 2 mana 2/2 is not good. But I think if you could turn this on, this card's absolutely insane.
I think the rate is so good that you're fine playing Drakes in your deck and never casting them. Like that's the type of power I see in this card.
That's bold.
Was this the real reason why Protect was made a 2 cost?
Probably.
That's a real thing,
Holy
yeah. That's a real thing.
You still play Protect in your deck just to make it.
Yeah, probably.
I think this was the missing piece of the puzzle for Horror Aggro. Now you can that deck is like an actual thing.
Oh, this card's real good. Like, there's not even that much to say. It's just good.
Ooh, you just play Misveiled Drakes in your deck?
Yeah, that's what we've been saying.
Most of the time you don't cast it, but sometimes like every now
Sometimes you
and then
cast a 6/6 flyer.
Yeah.
it's not the end. And it's a 6/6 fly with Aegis. Like,
Yeah.
When it's castable, it's castable. It's not like
And it's real good.
Yeah.
This card's real good.
like a face Aegis is a real card at times too. So it's
Yeah.
not like the dragon is.
Alright.
So what are the ways we can give it Aegis right
Cobalt
now? We can
Waystone,
give
Protect, Island's Choice, Mistvale Drake.
Island's Favor. Yeah.
Favor, yeah. I
And then
think that's
Mistvale
like the
Drake.
main ones. And there's probably more coming, so that's why I said it gets better.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of just covered this card. We just all think it's really good as long as you can turn it off.
What I will say though is, it's a little bit scary to get into combat with this card because there
Yeah.
are outside of Protect no ways to give yourself Aegis at instant speed, and if they take away the Aegis, she probably dies.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have to be a little bit careful.
Yeah.
I think this card also rewards you for good play for that reason.
Yeah, and I think because of that, there's a possibility this card is much worse than we think it is. Like
Yeah.
it might be that she doesn't see much play, but I think the power is there.
So, speaking of power, we went up 1 power on this one. But Hailstorm, so I've already talked about this in my video. I think this card is potentially format warping in some ways, but I don't think it's the be-all, end-all, as some people said. But I had a conversation with good old Hulk here before this started, and I'm just going to let you take this one away.
What was I saying?
About what you thought of Hailstorm.
I can't really. What I want to say is, I think people are a little bit high on Hailstorm overall because of, like, the more you play Eternal, the more you realize Lightning Storm is not really a good card, and at the end of the day, the only like the reason Hailstorm or Lightning Storm was never really that good is not only because of the amount of damage it does, but it's more like that type of card is not fantastic because there are very high rate, very big units in this game. So like doing free means you kill more stuff, but it doesn't mean you kill the stuff that Lightning Storm won't kill a lot of the time. Like maybe against Rakano that's true, but it doesn't get closer to getting Sandstorm Titan. Like the reason Harsh Rule is so good is because it kills everything. But what I want to say is like going into ETS this week or the first couple of weeks where this card it looks so good to people that you need to be prepared for it. If you bring a deck that is bad to Hailstorm right now, you're being stupid. Even though I'm not sure the card is as good as people say. I think I'm kind of like I saw the Twitch chat last night for a best of 3 where people were like, "Oh, Hailstorm is the best." I don't know. I need to be convinced on this card. For sure.
I think that because Lightning Storm could only be run as a 4 of in a 75 card deck, it was a lot worse than what it
Could be.
seemed on the surface. Whereas now we have 8 of those effects in Primal. That is pretty that is pretty format warping in that sense. Although when I don't know what better word I can use when I hear format warping, I mean like that sounds like
Chase
it's
the Mind
broken or
Sculptor.
something. It sounds broken, right? But this card's not broken. It's just really, really good.
I just think it might push like the aggro decks in a bad way. Like, do note though, aggro decks actually have ways to fight this. Stone Scar has Sabo, and Skycrag has Island's Intervention, and if it wants to, Caleb's choice. Like, it's not like the tools aren't there. Yeah, Island's choice. Sorry, yeah, Island's Intervention got a lot better. Rakano does not have the tools to fight this. Rakano gets worse. But
you can find a star a unit or play a weapon on a unit.
Yeah.
Like Rakano inherently has a bunch of ways to blank a card like this, and sure, if you try to go wide with the deck, it's kind of good. But it's also like relying on this as your way to start Rakano is really shaky, even at 3 damage.
I agree. Alright, so we've covered this one. My opinion has been changed about Daraka. So, for one, when I read the card, I didn't know it had Overwhelm. For 2,
Neither did I.
so it's a 6 mana 7/7. But when you play Island, she gets Aegis. Okay. Summon, stun an enemy unit, and it's stunned until this leaves the battlefield. So I read this and thought it was kind of bad, but my first thought was what everyone's going to go to is, oh my god, with Island, but that's not that good. What is good is a 6 mana 7/7 Overwhelm that comes with a really good ability, and that's the stun something. Ice Sprite doesn't see play because it dies to everything and comes on a bad body.
Yeah.
This card comes on a good body, and like that effect is really good. And this card comes late enough in the game that killing it's not exactly easy. Beats most things in combat too. I think the whole when you play Island thing is kind of a trap. So I think Daraka is better than what a lot of people thought. I don't think this card's like tier 1 or anything, but I think it's going to see a fair bit of play, at least a lot more than people initially expect.
Yeah. I mean, I love this card personally. It's exactly the type of card that I like. Like a Flame Tongue Kavu type effect that also kills the opponent. Or whatever, but I think the main thing that's lost on people if you don't kill this right now, you lose the game. You have 1 turn. If you miss, you're done. You can like it's almost like a high main in the Hearthstone, where if it attacks once, you just lose the game because a 7/7 it's a massive amount of damage, and also she deals with something when she enters play, and I don't know. I think this card is a lot better than people give it credit for.
I have an idea. Cut Carnosaur and Elysian.
Yeah, what I want to like the first place I want to go is just Shepherd's Horn. Holy shit, that turns out better.
Yeah,
like,
this card's a real good 4 of.
5 cost 7/7 with that ability?
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Big ass dude.
I'm not too sure how to evaluate this card, to be honest.
Yeah, and like what's also like people play Mac though. And that's in most duels, if you kill him once, it's usually as good as killing. Like, he's not reliable enough at getting back where you would play him. Like, I know what I'm trying to say, but what I mean is the reason Macdo is played is because he lives more than he dies, or whatever. And I think that's kind of the same with this card. It's in 75 card decks, which percent threats most of the turns. Having the resources to kill something like this on turn 6 is not guaranteed at all.
One thing to know is when you correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, when you play this card and if your opponent just kills it the next turn, their unit doesn't become unstunned right away, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
it does?
And it becomes ready too.
Okay,
Like,
just checking. Cool.
Yeah.
I thought that wasn't true either, but it's worded exactly like Ice Sprite, so unless there's extremes.
So,
by the way, Ice Sprite is like pretty close to being playable in Chalice, to be honest.
Yeah.
The fact that this is just that much better than Ice Sprite means that it's definitely playable, right?
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, I think this card is gonna see like massive amounts of play.
Yeah, I don't know.
People find room for
massive.
So, I mean, it is massive. One card that I really like is Rip Knife Assassin, and I've talked about this one already in a video, so I'll keep my thoughts sweet. I don't think it's as good as Arjaput Instigator. I don't think it competes with Stone Scar like Gunslingers. Not only is it not a Gunslinger, but I think it's like probably worse than Outlaw in that deck. But I think in a deck like Argenport, which has to play this shitty card called Tinker Overseer, I think Tinker is no longer seeing play. I think this is also just a good unseen card. It also synergizes with Commando. And it's always going to be a fine top deck because it can just trade if you have to. So I'm just going to go with Rip Knife Assassin is just a good card. And I think it's going to see a fair bit of play.
I don't like it at all. I think it just doesn't do enough. I don't know. I don't like. It's an okay card. I just don't see what deck I would ever want to play it in.
Would you rather play Overseer in Argenport?
I don't think Overseer was good in Argenport either.
It wasn't. But would you? What one? If you're gonna play your 5th to 8th 2-drop, which one would you prefer?
I would splash for something.
Holy shit!
You know, that's the type of player I am. I think
you're not
the
conservative.
Best way to win an Eternal is to play more good 2-drops, and this is not a good 2-drop, so I'm not interested.
Okay.
Or like, that's the type of way I approach Eternal in general. But sure, it's like everything you say makes sense, and I think it's maybe better than Recano Outlaw, which I think is one of the most overplayed cards in the game as well. I think that card is pretty bad, even though it always looks scary, so people keep playing it. I don't know. I really don't like 2-drops that don't scale well in this game, and I think this is a 2-drop that scales kind of, but not good enough to be played.
What's the 3-cost 4/3?
Orc Interrogator?
Orc Interrogator. You can actually trigger that now.
That's
relevant.
Actually,
that's the one point you made in your video that I watched 5 minutes of that you made that I really agreed with, and that's what kind of put me over the top for this card. I think it's actually pretty good.
I think this is like
Argenport
only Argenport right now, but I think in Argenport it's going in over Overseer.
Yeah, I mean I don't think it's aggressive enough to be in.
No, it doesn't go in like Stone Scar. It doesn't.
But is Argenport a playable deck?
That's a different conversation, I think.
Yeah, like I don't think this is enough to push Argenport over the top. It didn't really get anything else. And
fair. Well, I think it's time we move on because we have a bad one. We have a real bad one. All right, so let's just read through this together, class. 4-mana triple Shadow Relic Nightfall. When you start your turn, start. Please note start. That means it does nothing when it enters. When you start your turn at night, play 2 1/1 rats they can't block. At the end of your turn, if you have 3 or more rats, sacrifice sewers.
Oh, they can't block?
They can't block. So I'm just gonna say it real quick. You can brew with this. I don't know what you're trying to do with it. Maybe some sort of random witching hour thing. But I'm just gonna say it nice and sweet. This card's the worst card in the expansion and is unplayable. It's not even good with Obelisk.
I don't think this card's very good. You can put in like a Brimstone Altar type deck, I guess.
I mean, isn't it a decent sideboard card in certain matchups? Is where it maybe
like against what Armory?
Yeah, the decks. Yeah, against like something like Armory in a deck list, I could see this. Like, Xenon, the way it is right now, once Nightfall trigger is anyway for Luna Magus and stuff. And if you're playing Obelisk and Xenon, bringing this in versus Armory is probably, I don't know, I think it has sideboard application, but not anything else.
Nah, I think that even my brain can't comprehend how this would be good in any deck whatsoever. I could say for like multiple sacrifice, like if you
like
found a way
Obrak.
to- yeah, well, I mean Obrak is
It's just an idea.
yeah, like an Obrak style Brimstone Altar Combustion Cell deck that needs like a lot of units, but like even then you only sacrifice 1 unit a turn. You're getting 2 on like, and you only get it like once unless you
You have to keep triggering Night.
You have to keep on
Too much
exactly.
work.
I don't. Yeah, you need.
Yeah, I think that
Gloaming Wisp and stuff like that, you can re-trigger it and stuff, but yeah, I don't know.
I just feel like a card that has potential inevitability is interesting as a sideboard card in certain matchups. Like, I think it's a bad card. It's garbage because they can't block. But there are decks that can't beat it. Like,
why do they can't block? Like, I know it'd be actually powerful if it it requires triple shadow. Like, I mean, it needs to be powerful to be played, and
I think it belongs to the sewers.
I really want to see the file on this card. Oh, that's a good joke, by the way. But I really want to see the file on this card, like where it started, and then it turned out to be too powerful, so they like added double shadow, and then that was still too good. I think the rats had probably like deadly and could block.
Yeah. Here's all right, DWD. I'm hoping at least one of you have watched up to this 51 minutes into the video. Please send us.
The file.
I think this card tells a story in a way. Like the triple shadow to me is so funny.
All right, well. That card, I think, at some point was murdered in cold blood, guys. So let's move on. In cold blood, haha, I'm funny. Kill an enemy unit. If it was a justice unit, the enemy player discards all of them from their handed deck. They can't leave the void, and you lose all your justice influence. So let's just start by saying you cannot play this in Urgent Port, and that's intended. You don't want to play this Deathstrike Slay, some random removal pile Urgent Port deck. But what this does say is delete Tavrod, delete Akaria, but it also look at like
delete Macdo.
Yeah, Macdo. Look at Felon Control for a second. That deck plays Feeding Time to deal with things like Macdo. And lesser Dawnwalker. Dawnwalker's not seeing a lot of play right now, and you're pretty good against most Dawnwalker decks anyways as Felon. I think this card doesn't see tons and tons and tons of play, but I think it sees sideboard play, and I think Felon Control and a lot of non-Justice control decks are gonna go, goodbye Feeding Time, hello in Cold Blood. Because I think this is a better card than Feeding Time.
It's actually not as good as you think versus Mac, though, because the copy you kill still
goes in the deck.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Crap. Wait, kill enemy if discards each copy from the handed deck, but you kill
the destiny happens after the card is solved.
Yeah.
I think it's a trigger. Unless the game is super weird, which happens all the time in this. So maybe it is good versus Mac though, but the way I think the game works is not as good as what I want to explore. I think this card is okay, but what I want to explore more than anything else, is there a way to make my opponent cast this card? Can I delete all of the?
That's the best thing I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah.
All right.
We need to have land destruction in this.
I want hate bears personally.
Yeah.
We did get one. We got hate birds, but that's later. I think we've talked enough about that one. Let's talk about. Do we actually need to talk about Sandglass Sentinel or Sandglass Juggernaut?
No one's gonna play it. It's
garbage.
It's a
Why does it exhaust it?
Wait, Overwork, are you
Otherwise, it could block the turn it came into play.
Or you could bond it that
otherwise
turn.
It would actually be okay.
So, are we just all going to go with unplayable and we can move on?
Yeah, I think this card is absolute garbage.
Alright, next card.
It's a double.
No, don't.
Card.
Stop. Don't. Let's just move on.
Would it be too good in Fire? Oh, I don't understand.
Alright. Sword of Descent. So, hey, I got an opinion here, and I've already made some people in Discord mad, okay? A, this card's on the wrong faction pair. This is meant to be in like Archer Port, in my opinion, because Valkyries. There's no reason. I know Ikaria exists, but there's not really any reason to play Rakano Valkyries, and 3-faction Valkyrie decks is rough because you have so many like double influence Valkyries.
Why would you care about
The Valkyrie ally?
the Valkyrie ally thing? I guess that actually gives you.
It makes this card more engineable, I guess. But whenever you do note that this has to be in play when you get the Warcry for this effect to go into your deck. But it's a 3-mana 2/4, which is pretty shitty when Warcry is an aggressive mechanic. I do agree that the Warcry effect is powerful. But if you like, let's go through the the tier 1 or the tier A, I think is the phrase people use. For this card, and you're like, okay, Rakano aggro. Well, you don't really care about discounting your cards, and this card's in an aggressive deck is probably worse than Enforcer, Commander, Cinder Yeti, Whirling Duo, and you're not going to play a 20th 3-drop. The real application is when you go, I'm playing a Ikaria in my deck on turn 5.
Boy, are we gonna disagree on this card.
But
yeah, I know exactly.
Diametrically the opposite opinions on everything you've said.
But here's the thing. Ikaria is hard to cast, and that's one of the issues with like cards like Power Stone, is the actual casting. Like, if you're planning to play this to get it on Ikaria, I think you have to just be Rakano. I think this card is playable when you try to exploit it, and like finding the right shell is going to be hard, and I think you have to try it not to be in a Valkyrie stack. I think you have to be just playing for that ability and hoping you could abuse it, kind of like playing Miner's Musket. So I think it's kind of just a high rolly card, and I'm really curious now about how much Hulk is about to disagree with me. But I'm gonna go at this card. This card, I think, gets built around. I think it's a cool build around card. I'm happy it exists. I don't think it's like a tier 1 card. Go, shoot me.
I think it's a build around trap, maybe like top 5 cards in the entire expansion, and it slots into Rakano. You put a hammer on it, that's insane. Attack, play 3 spells to turn out. It's a 2/4. It's the perfect body. It's what I always want.
Yeah, I know exactly. 2/4 is like my favorite size.
No, but seriously, I think it's a big trap as a like a cast Ikaria type card, because Warcry is way too inconsistent to do anything like that. You have no control over the mechanic. But in a deck like Rakano, where you can play it on turn 3, maybe attack with a Warcry unit, get some kind of discount that lets you cast 2 cards in 1 turn, a couple of turns later, and then you can hammer it to have like an actually big effect. It's almost like build your own Fire Maw trigger. That combined with the fact that a 2/4 is slight, I don't think it's a rate good enough to play on a unit on its own. But that combined with the random upside of being a double Warcry, I think this card actually is pretty good in straight Rakano. And I think it's gonna see play. But I think there's never gonna be a deck that tries to like abuse it, that it's actually gonna be good in, because decks like that just don't work.
Oh, I thought I was gonna be able to abuse it here. If you have Stella with this, it reduces the rest of your deck by 1.
How about Navani?
Or Navani.
Navani's probably the better one.
Stone Shaker also reduces. Stella is when you have a weapon on it, it attacks you. Gunslingers and weapons in your deck get a.
No, Stella does not Warcry.
Oh, right, it doesn't trigger Warcry. I thought I was all excited for a second.
Of course.
Navani does, but then you're playing Navani.
I mean, Navani is a 4-mana 4/4 that triggers. That makes the rest of your deck more powerful.
Can I just say one more thing?
So,
can I say one more? It's the reason it has Valkyrie ally is this down design. It's like a story card.
Yeah.
Where Warcry is the rebel mechanic, and she allies with Ikaria as the storyline, basically. Like that's why it's a rebel gunslinger. I just want to note that it's a top-down design, and that's why it looks the way it looks.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
No, but over still can get the things.
All right, so with Stone Shaker and Navani in the same deck, no, I'm just joking.
You're just trying to scream Great Queen Titan here. That doesn't work how I want it to, I don't think.
Well, you need to Warcry a lot for that to happen. But you could play this with Warhelm, the Warhelm Navani trick, right?
Yeah.
And it reduces the rest of your deck by 1, all the units and the rest of your deck by 1. I don't know. It seems pretty powerful in like a mid-rangey style of deck with like early. You don't even need like Oni Ronin or whatever. You just start off at 2 maybe with like your paladins and stuff like that, which is a decent card. And then you play this on turn 3. You reduce the next card, and you can start playing your threats like a lot sooner. And if there are things like Jack, I don't know, things of this nature, it's actually a pretty powerful card.
Like if
just
you're
on its own.
if you're a more mid-rangey Recano style deck, you also get to play this and the Warcry that minuses everything on the opposing side of the board. You have
you get like Bailiff.
Oh yeah, the Bailiff with this. This is pretty powerful too. Yeah. What Valkyries are available?
Enforcer. You're playing for Enforcer. Like you can get there. I just don't think you go out of way for the bottom text.
No, I just think it happens occasionally, and it's nice when it does. Like, is there anything else Spire Guard is not playable?
Like the auto sensors Icaria, like I think that's the next best one, and you're not gonna play it.
Once you're casting Icaria,
if you're playing Ricardo mid-range, Emil.
Oh, that's true. Amelia's actually,
pretty strong Valkyrie. It doesn't have Warcry though. What other Warcries stuff do we get?
Nothing good, I don't think.
I mean, sure, but it doesn't really need, like, if it's a Valkyrie and this card is in play, you get your Warcry anyway.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's why it's there. It's so that you can still play Valkyries in the deck and not have them be terrible or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Alright, I think it's now time we move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Giral. So, first thing to know is a 2-mana 2/3, but it costs Combray to cast it. So first thing you think, okay, Awakened Student. No text except you can pay 5 to double the attack and health of one of your units wielding a weapon. So the thing to note about that is that basically says your dude is big. Now make him the biggest thing on the board ever. I think this is one of those cards you're supposed to exploit it in some weapon heavy deck. Like we did discuss the flying weapon earlier, and that like these go in the same deck. I'm not convinced that this card is like great because it's pretty shitty until you can ultimate, and it's a conditional ultimate. So I don't know if that deck actually has the tools to be good. Although it has like Student, Desert Marshal, Still Stand Together, Obelisk, Seraph. Maybe it's there. Like I think the deck is easily buildable. I'm just not sure it's great. I think if there's a weapons matter Combray deck that's aggressive, I think this card's good for it. I'm just not sure that deck exists, but I think this card is a really powerful 2-drop for a deck like that.
Yeah, I don't want to, like, what I want to say is that every time I play this game, all I ever want is to be able to play a 8 Awakened Student in my deck, and this is closer in some lists than other. Like every deck I ever build is pretty much I want to play 8 Awakened Student, why I can't. So let's try something similar.
Yeah,
but like I don't think the card is good enough to see play in normal.
No,
Combray aggro. But if you like, we talked about with the 4 hammer 4 Inquisitors play, we actually have 8 weapons
or Vodkin staff. Either one.
Yeah, and the staff. It's actually like pretty consistent in having a weapon. And then this card, like a 2/3 on turn 2 is fine if you can play it on turn 2.
Yeah,
and I could see this list actually being a real powerhouse. I kind of dismissed this card when I first looked at it because it looked bad to me. I mean, the 5 mana is a lot for a kind of icky effect. But like if you have the flyer unit in play with the Inquisitors played, just doubling its attack is usually good enough to win the game, right? Probably.
You probably kill your opponent.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree. I think that if that deck existed, it would have already existed. I don't think this pushes over the top for sure.
I got a really good weapon, man.
I think the blade is what.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. The fact they got 2 new cards, and I think they're both pretty good for that style.
I think the rate is just too low on both effects that's just never going to see play.
Honestly, okay. I think even if that deck exists, this card might not be good enough to see play in that deck.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I think too. I think the Awakened Student. There are other 2-drops that are better. Like you have the 3-drop 4/4 and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think this card is just not. if you're paying 5 to ultimate something, that's a lot of tempo.
You pretty much need to kill your opponent that turn.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just don't think that.
I mean, there is the 4-drop with Overwhelm and Aegis that you could probably, but then
Yeah.
you have 12 4-drops, and that's shaky. Maybe.
All right, let's move on.
You need something with evasion.
How do I say
baby.
this? Equivocate? Someone help me here.
Equivocate.
Okay,
Equivocate.
so it's a legion. Got a fast
Is that
spell.
an actual word in English? Like equivocate?
Yeah.
Or did they
Is
make
it?
that-
Yeah.
Okay, I've just never heard it. So it's 2 mana
Okay,
fast spell, put a unit into its owner's hand, then transform it random, same cost. So you could first go to the Mimi version. This card is really good in Mind Link.
Oh yeah.
Like
You actually get to know which unit they got.
yeah, like that's information is always good, and yeah, like it's actually fine there. But I think Elysian midrange, for example, gets a lot better. I think
Got
this.
a new tool.
I think like that deck lacks removal. That's its issue. Even if like the thing about that deck, and it's one of the important things about it is cards like Displacer kind of just throwing your opponent behind a little bit, because if you can ever get ahead, you don't lose.
Yeah.
The whole problem is getting ahead. So if you go like okay, turn 1 Crest, turn 2 do nothing. You know you're playing a 3-drop next turn, and your opponent plays a Mercado Outlaw, just a 2-drop, and you get to time walk them, so to say, bounce it to their hand, then slam your 3-drop. You're now in control. I think this card is amazing in a deck like Elysian Midrange. I don't know if it's good enough in like temporal control, like some sort of control shell, but I instantly think it's great in Elysian. I don't know if you would splash it. Like, let's just pretend you were playing Fire with this. I don't know if you'd play it over, say, like Purify and things like that. I don't know if you'd have room, but I think at minimum Elysian midrange and maybe some other strategies. Like I don't think TJP midrange wants it. I don't think Chalice wants it, but I think at least in midrange it's amazing.
Yeah, I think that the fact that pushes it into playability, and because like a bounce spell is, but the thing that pushes it into playability in Elysian is that it's a 2-drop. Like it's if you don't have initiate, it's something like actually viable to do on turn 2 versus aggro, which is really really nice. But it's also like if it's gonna see play, it's either in that deck or maybe in more creation.
Yeah,
because
good call.
Because it like in a deck like that, it kind of equivalents to hard removal, right? The type of cards you can't deal with, which I don't know. A good example is something like Mystic Ascendant.
Yeah,
this card actually like deals with that, and that's pretty nice. So like, it's a way to deal with Ikaria long term. I think it fills a hole in those decks that really like you had to play Polymorph. That's not exactly a great place to be.
it's better than Polymorph.
Polymorph, yeah certainly better
exactly.
than Polymorph.
Sure.
It's gonna feel really bad when you get the same unit again.
So you just cast a 2-mana time walk.
Can that happen?
Yeah, I can because it's just a random unit.
Yeah, you can.
The same cost.
I mean, that's like you play it for the bounce effect. You don't play it for the transformation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think this is pretty good. I think it's definitely slots in nicely into Elysian midrange. Like I actually got a new tool, which is great. It hasn't really gotten that since Behemoth. And Behemoth is not like
it's not an all-star in that deck.
The fact that it got Behemoth and can now play Nightly Hunt and this card means your interactions
Gotten better.
pretty strong.
Yeah. And Perma.
I've always believed that the Elysian midrange has always like kind of been the best deck in the game. It's just that the fact that people play aggro means that it doesn't see as much play as it should, and that's still gonna be true. But this card helps versus aggro, and Elysian. It was never bad. I think there has never been a metagame where the deck was bad. It's not gonna. I think the access to this is probably like, yeah, Elysian is still good. Play it.
All right, shall we look at the next one?
Yeah, this is the.
All right, so this is the one that everyone got hyped about. This is the death of Tony G. This is blah 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 blah. All right, Huru Pacifier, 3 mana, 3/4 flying overwhelm, unseen, and weapons can't be played. So this card's super powerful. It's the one thing to know is it's not as busted as people thinking like Huru Flyers, and the real reason for it is that deck. Its strong spot was 3 mana. Its 2-drops kind of suck, and its 4-drops are like kind of meh, except for Shelter Wing. So like the curve is still not great in that deck, and that is an issue that deck has a lot of. Or that's an issue that comes up a lot. I think going like turn 3 this year, opponent sat there with 4 Rune Hammers in hand is obviously insane. One thing to note though is ignoring the weapons thing is it's a 3-mana 3/4 flying overwhelm. Imagine how many games where Seraph has been good when you didn't ultimate him. Well, this card's better than Seraph when it comes to without like any extra text because it flies, and it gets triggered by Unseen Commando. This card is going to see a ton of play. It's probably going to see a little bit more play than it needs to at first because everyone's like, oh my god, the best card in game, blah blah blah, which it's not. But it's a super powerful card. It could hurt, yeah, there's decks like Aubrey that are sad. This also is going to hurt how you build Huru, because you don't want to play Rune Hammer, Hammer of Might anymore. It's just because it's two-sided. Card's good, card's going to see play, card's going to be overplayed at first though, for sure in my opinion. But I like cards like this. I like the idea of like hate bears and magic type of thing. So I'll always take that type of card, so I think this card's good.
I mean, it's probably the only card in the game that might be a better rate than Titan. Like, that's a good place to be, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that Horo also got the option to play Ward Wielder, like, they actually got another 2-drop now.
That's
you
true.
have both Koton and that 2-drop means that the curve got a lot better. So that Horo Flyers is, I think, a level 1 deck now that you need to prepare for. It's for sure going to show up next week, and it's probably going to be powerful.
Random thought. Cut Nostrix for 4 Misfill Drake in Huru Flyers.
Don't play Nostrix, that card is garbage.
So let's just play 4 Misfill Drake.
Yeah.
If that is your Aegis for your 2-drop. I'm not joking.
Yeah, I think
I think that's really good.
I'm going to test it.
Yeah, the weapons can be played thing is, I think, almost, like, it makes the card good in a way. I mean, it protects it from Runehammer, but it also think this card, if it didn't have that text, would be broken.
Would still be played.
No, it would be way more broken. It would be fucking unbelievable. Like, imagine being able to play this with Hammer. Like,
so, do you think this is actually a downside?
Hard to kill this card.
Oh yeah. You
think it's a downside?
It's not a downside per se, but I think the card is worse because of that text for sure.
Cool.
Like,
that's really interesting.
Imagine you could play like the FJP plate deck with this card in it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That's really interesting. It might actually be
because as of right now, you can't really play it in there.
Card is really hard to kill. Like,
yeah, it's super hard to kill.
Like, sure, it dies to permafrost is the biggest weakness, but like it's, I don't know. The weapons can be play text is like interesting, but I don't know.
It might be a downside.
I think that's a downside. Or I think it's more like they designed the card and then they like, oh shit, if we allow this, it's way too powerful. So we need to make the card better / worse. And I mean, protection from Hammer, but it doesn't even have full protection from Hammer, because if they hammer, you can't play this card.
Yeah.
They can stay like, I don't know. But it's the rate is amazing. Like it's gonna see play because it's probably the best rate in the game. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think this card hits in all the right places too. It's an unseen, it's flying an overwhelm. Yeah. Like it's just the only problem, I guess, is trying to cast it on actual turn 3.
Yeah, it can be hard.
But I mean, that's going to be true of any card of this type, right? Even Titan is sometimes not castable in turn 4 and things like it's. I think that this card is probably the best card in the set in the adventure, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
It's hard to argue against, for sure. So let's move on to Anointer of the Faithful. So a 2-mana 1/3 lifesteal Paladin.
The strangest card I've ever seen.
Summon, give a Paladin Bond, and when you play another Paladin, put a weapon on it. So I'm just gonna say this: a 2-drop giving something Bond is one of the most powerful things you can do in a card game.
When I read this card, I was like, this might be the most powerful card I've ever seen. And then I looked at
then you looked at the Paladins and you realized they suck. This is a card that is inherently busted, that just doesn't have the support. If there was a bunch of good paladins right now, I'd tell you this might be the best card in the set, and is absurd because it's an absurd card.
I mean, you can do.
Go ahead.
You can do pretty stupid turn 3 curves with it. Like,
yeah,
you can play this on turn 3. Play
an Oathkeeper is
play an Oathkeeper and give bond to your 2/1 paladin in your hand, so that you can bond down the. There's some stupid curves you can do with it, but the card itself, like,
yeah.
There's really only one payoff paladin, and that's the questionably playable.
Copperhall Paladin is a paladin.
Yeah,
that card's kind of crazy because with this plus that, you can actually you bond it on next turn, and then you play another 2-drop.
Wait, stop. Copperhall Paladin, its ability is when you play a weapon on it.
Yeah,
so you go Anointer, play Paladin, you get an instant trigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy, that's a curve. So then you ramp to 5. Hey, it's better than Ikaria. I had to. This card's busted.
It's also Oathbreakers, and if you splash for Oathbreaker, because it has lifesteal as well, I don't know. Like, we're getting a little crazy. And
I think there might be.
Bright Mace Paladin gets an instant trigger, too.
Yeah.
It automatically becomes a 3-cost 4/4 lifesteal. That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
I mean, the Paladin deck is worth exploring, but
it's not there yet.
Probably not going to be good enough. But it's like the effect itself, like you said, is maybe the most powerful thing a card could do.
This card, like the things that are written on this card, like let's pretend we didn't know what the type was or anything like that. And hell, let's pretend we didn't know its stats, so we knew it was 2 costs and it gave something bond.
Yeah.
We would say it's probably playable.
Just 2 power are usually too powerful.
And the fact it has a bunch of extra text, and the body is like not the worst thing ever.
It's a 2-cost 1/3 lifesteal.
They're pretty good in multiples.
Oh yeah, they're great in multiples. Who are you kidding?
Yeah.
So I think this card is really good. Just not yet, but when it's good, it's going to make everybody sad because it's busted.
I think it's very telling about Bond, the fact that no Bond cards currently see play, because that means they have the mechanic is so powerful that they had to be really, really conservative, which like how the Bond card, like if you look at the Bond cards that exist like now, none of them offer a lasting effect on the game. Like all of them are just big creatures. The only Bond card outside of things that cost 16 that gives you like an effect if they kill it is the 4 or 5 that gives you free explorers.
Yeah.
There's also the one that draws 2 cards and discards 2 cards in Yetis.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
That one's okay. So I think we agree Anointer's just super powerful eventually.
Yeah.
It might be powerful now. Who knows? I might try that.
I'm gonna try it. I'm not sure it's good yet.
The more I'm like, that's actually a lot of upside.
Yeah.
It's just when the deck doesn't draw Anointer, it's still gonna be
exactly. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Poke, unplayable. Next card? Question mark.
What? Why are people so down on this? It's great.
I know, actually.
It's a really good card.
It's a free card. That's the thing. It's free.
Like Overmaster was talking about during the like. There's so many ways to generate snowballs, and a bunch of ways to make snowballs really good. And that
there's now that new 5-cost thing that gives your spells plus two to attack. Like, I mean, if you're creating drawing a snowball with that in play, like that's a 3 damage.
And like
that's pretty nice. I don't know.
Before, I think that the problem with a deck like that is it's like it needs to get to turn 6 or something to do stuff. But this card has a pretty decent blocker in the mid game.
It has Reckless.
It has Reckless.
Yeah, but he can still block the turn you play it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know. I think this card is pretty decent.
I think this is one of those another top down thing, not top downs, but like they saw how powerful this was without Reckless, and they were like, crap, we have to make this card weaker somehow, and they put a Reckless onto it because it was too good of a blocker.
A lot of people were like saying this was complete trash, and I don't know. I think this card might see play.
Interesting.
If Yetis exists as a deck, this is a card that goes into the Yetis deck.
I could see this being what pushes mid-range Yetis over top. I think it's the type of card the deck is lacking, like a mid-game stall type card.
I really wanted to test out Yetis, but like the Yetis requires this little card called Thud Rock.
That you don't have the dust for.
Unfortunately, and I
Who the
just
fuck
don't have.
owns 4 Fud Rocks?
The thing about this
Exactly.
card though is like it's weirdly static where it's like it has the aggressive ability and reckless, and then it comes out of defensive body.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks incredibly stupid.
It's
which I think is
not.
fantastic.
Ooh.
It's a very like Yeti type card. Like, why does it have these stats?
Yeah. All right.
I don't know.
So it you attack with this and people can't they can't block with their two toughness units now to block this because you have a snowball.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. It seems pretty good.
So.
This card.
Oh yeah, this card is the bomb.
Oh.
Baby.
So I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna get it right out of our system. I want to go Haunting Scream. That's all I want to do. I just want to scream things with this card.
All you need in your deck is 4 haunting screens because this card will find it.
So,
Like,
okay, let's
holy
just
shit.
quickly mention the good elves in Eternal. And these might not be exactly great, but like the playable ones are Lethrai Ranger is the worst one. Ashara, both Asharas, but the 3-mana one's the relevant one. Direwood Beastcaller, and Champion of Cunning.
Champion Cunning is pretty good.
I just named a bunch of really like solid Feln-based cards, which this card is. I think there's a Feln tempo deck.
I thought the Unseen were elves. Like I was pretty sure Unseen and elf was the same thing. In it.
Oh, that's sad.
So I was so confused when this card. I thought it was a custom card for like 2 hours because I just didn't know there was a creature type called elf in the game.
So, I think basically with this card, it helps you infiltrate, which is cool because I want to play Gorgon Fanatic Direwood Beastcaller. The Elf ally is amazing. Drawing a spell for your top 4, good chance you're going to hit. You can get removal, you can get scream, you can get card draw, whatever you're really looking for.
Cards discard. They go into
Yeah, they
your
also
graveyard.
discard, so you
Oh,
help your scream. I'm just gonna put it out there. I know a lot of people are like 4-mana 2/2 unplayable. I think this card is very fringe. Like there's only like one type of deck with it, but I think that might be a real deck.
Oh, it's definitely.
I'm gonna
real.
obviously
I'm
try
gonna
it.
play for it, and I think this card's gonna be incredible in that deck. Like Elf ally, draw a spell from the top 4 cards of your deck. Oh well, I guess you have to already have the Elf in play.
That's fine.
Which
There's a couple. Like I think you play
Yeah.
at least Ashara, Direwood Champ, this, and
Direwood
maybe if you
Beastcaller, yeah.
like, I think you might play Ranger and go half aggressive. But
Yeah, I think Ranger's fine.
Yeah.
I think Ranger's a fine
so
card.
if that's
Two
the
cost
plan,
4/4,
that's
it
what
hits.
24 elves
I
in
don't
the deck.
think you play. I don't think you need to play champion in that deck.
Okay, 20.
Yeah.
Like either way, it's enough. So I just think this card's powerful, and the deck that it's kind of like looking to be at, I think is there. I don't know if it's tier 1, but it's there, and it's gonna be good in that deck.
It is tier 1. I already made it tier 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a tier 1 deck.
Yeah, I think this card is really like it opens up a lot more avenues.
You might not
For
play
screen-
4 of them. You might not play 4 of them in something like the kind of style that I'm going for.
Yeah.
Right. But it's definitely a card to be played. in that deck.
You can build it a bunch of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because there's the still play Madness and the Shara and like just play this.
Yeah.
And then there's you just go like 2 colors and be a little bit more of a mid-range style deck. So you still have the Madness, but you can also play Champion. I don't know. 4 cards are so many.
Yeah. I don't think people
Oh, yeah.
realize, like, have any of you ever cast Scheme?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually not
I'm
that
just
bad.
gonna say this, and like I think this is something that a lot of people are gonna disagree with. Scheme is actually a really powerful card. The issue is like it doesn't get you raw numbers, but that's
Yeah.
a lot of card selection, and it digs you so deep. Like, and especially since the rest get discarded in this case, like Scheme is a real card, and this just does it for free type of thing. You still get a body, and like I just think this card's good.
And
This
it's not
is-
like it almost ever whiffs, because even if you can get Quarry if you play like
If you whiff, you just put a bunch of creatures in the yard to scream.
I think it's also good because it kind of gives you carte blanche to play for Suffocate if you play the 2-color version. Like,
Do you mean Sabo
cheap.
or Suffocate?
Both of them?
Okay.
But, like you can,
The cheap shit.
You have a reason to play really cheap interaction.
Well, you're
even
playing
in the 2-color
Levitate.
list. Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
levitate, but
Levitate's pretty good too. Yeah.
Well, we
It's
found
the
what we're
fact-
playing in the
The
ETS.
problem is that you have to have the elf in play when it comes into play. Wait, no, you don't.
Nope, it's an ally.
Oh my jeez.
How about, here's something that I just want to do one day. It's not the most powerful thing, but I still just want to do it. Have, like, I don't know, let's go turn 3 Direwolf Beast Collar, turn 4, no, turn 3 Gorgon Fanatic. Or just something, like, early that didn't really do a lot. Turn 4 Sky Strider. Turn 5 Sky Strider. Draw 2 cards.
Draw 2 cards. That's so sweet, and it gets you 8 deeper. You discard 6 cards. That's just insane.
And then there's the random upside of sometimes you get your Direwolf through or whatever. I mean, it has the other piece.
Yeah, that actually I think is very relevant.
Or your Lethal Ranger.
Yeah,
like Lethal Ranger is actually pretty powerful if it actually hits.
Yeah, it's 2 mana 4/4. We already talked about how good 2 mana 5/5 was.
The reason Ranger has never really been that good in the Scream decks is because like you don't want to scream a Ranger into their face.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you can play it as more of a mid-range style deck with Champion, where like a body is actually relevant, then yeah, 4/4 is great.
All right. Well, we've all fangirled a little bit.
I love this card.
Me too. Let's probably not fangirl.
It's a girl too.
Over Winder. 3 mana 2/4. Grenadin. Whenever your Grenadin hits the enemy player, both players mill the top 2 cards of their deck. It does discard, so relevant for like Dream Snatcher.
Wait, each player? Oh man, I want to use this card a lot.
I think this card's exploitable. There's obviously like the Solitude kill plan. Like that's a thing you can randomly do.
It's not good, but it's exploitable. It can be a brew round.
Yeah, right? This is a brew round card. It makes cards like Dark Return better in the Grenadin's deck too. It's fine.
I think if this was just you, it would maybe be the type of card that pushed it.
Just what? Sorry.
The fact that it hits your opponent kind of sucks. Like I think it makes the card significantly worse.
Yeah.
But this like the fact that it's a 2/4 body, which is
fine.
It's exactly what Grenadin is.
Yeah,
right?
I agree there.
And the effect is really powerful. Like, I think this might actually like see a ton of play in Grenadin if Grenadin is still a deck, or like if it's a deck now, this card is probably gonna see play there.
I don't
the
think
fact
so.
that it hits your opponent is really scary. There's so many ways to get punished for doing that.
I do agree there.
You kind of like even if they're playing Dark Return in the deck, you're giving them a free tutor, and like that's the best case scenario if they have Grave Interaction. Because if they have Scream, I do not want to be playing this card.
Yeah, enabling the most powerful card in the game is probably not what you want to be.
This card's really cool though. I like cards like this. Just gonna say this now for DWD. This is the type of card I like printed. The cards were like, I'm gonna scratch my head a little bit. It's not just a pile of stats. It's not just a bunch of keywords. It's just something we don't have.
Yeah, and the art is fucking amazing.
Oh yeah. I'm looking at
great.
Foils.
Yeah.
Where's that foil?
I just like foil option, and all the foils have looked so good. But this is probably one of my favorites.
I think it really like communicates what Grenadin's is about. I don't know. The reason I like it in Grenadin's kind of is the fact that we've already seen that Grenadin's is kind of fine throwing away random cards that like game upside, and this is exactly the type of card to do that.
You know, this makes Gear Cruncher better.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you draw Gear Cruncher and can't really turn it on.
Yeah.
This helps. It happens.
That doesn't happen that often.
It happens sometimes.
Even if you just play it and then combustion cell, it's still a Grenadin. It's I don't know. I think the upside is there because the body is good enough where it's an okay card to have in the deck as is.
Yeah.
Like, all you want to do is block anyway, right? And this is pretty good at it.
Yeah. So how about we talk about the last card in the set? We had to end on a bad note, didn't we?
I can't even evaluate this.
Alright, so I'm gonna evaluate it for everybody here. I think we should end the video here. I think this card's a little bit of a slap in the face to Radiance and Xenon. I think this card's just abysmal. The fact that it has to also see 7 things die, not just 7 things die in the game. Like, get out of here. This card's shit.
It's just
the
not the-
ultimate is not what you play it for.
Exactly.
But I don't think
let's look at the
the Radiants aren't good. We did this in my video. It's not good. There's not a lot of options. By the way, I checked that. I'm very sad to say that Mystic Ascendant is not a Radiant, and I thought it was.
It's a mystic.
So like you do have Waystone Diffuser,
Mystic Ascendant is a mystic.
but yeah,
Probably
for some
change
reason I
that,
thought it was a
honestly.
Radiant, but I just think this
Lumen
card's
Reclaimer
bad.
is a radiant.
Yeah,
That could be abusable in some way.
play it for cheaper. It dies. Ultimate, go get more Lumen Reclaimers.
No, but I mean, the most. But you can go turn 3 back on the.
Yeah, but that's not that good.
Yeah,
No,
because
but
you're not
it's a
triggering-
decent. It's a good card. Like
Yeah,
I think
it's
the
your
card has
best.
a very-
It's the
Tyrant.
best card in your deck.
No, but I think you should not look at the ultimate. I think the ultimate is not there.
I agree.
That's the way you evaluate this card. So
Yeah,
what you
exactly.
either want to be doing is ramping into Shadowlands Tyrant, which I don't know. It's
It's
maybe
okay.
something you can do.
It's
I
alright.
just think that
Undead
that card
Reaper
doesn't
is
have flying
pretty good.
that really
Undead
Yeah,
Reaper is
I
that's a
just-
pretty sweet card.
maybe. Or like, there's also the Duskwalker curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the way the mask decks have played out so far is you just play 4 Gift of Ascendel and you try to get to them as quickly as possible.
That's interesting.
And I mean, this card kind of fits into that type of game plan because you can play Beckoning Lumen in the same type of deck and be kind of a life. Like it's just like a ramp card in the life mask type of deck. It could see play there. I don't think it's a very good card, but I also don't. I'm just myopic about it. Mitotic about it, I guess. What is that even a word?
I don't know what it
don't- I-
means.
I actually don't know, and
That's saying something. Over's like, yeah, our English guy, and Hulk.
I've never ever heard that word.
But you're using it. So
I think that the Radiants aren't good enough to be playing with it, but there might be a curve that it might be very, very powerful in. Like getting Duskwalker earlier and then being able to ramp into what on the next turn, like what are you ramping into, a 6-drop?
well, you have access to
actually-
4 6 power plus the 1 discount. You have up to 7 power.
How fast can you get to World Joiner?
Turn 5.
I guess the funny thing is, but a gift is what you want to run.
But that doesn't
Yeah,
get discounted.
That get discounted by
But
No,
you're
but
right.
But like the fact that you now have access to 8 2-drop ramp cards and 8 4-drop ramp cards kind of makes that curve semi-consistent. Like, sure,
Yeah.
it's not as good as it seems because Mitotic doesn't hit mask.
Also, you need life gain for.
You also,
for
yeah,
mask
if
to
you're against
really
like
be-
aggro, like this
No, but
conversation's
if you
irrelevant.
just look at mask as a 1+ ramp, and you can probably get the trigger somewhere around in there. I don't know.
Well, yeah, you're playing like
It
Zenith.
certainly doesn't make the mask deck worse that this card exists. Whether that deck is ever going to be good enough is a different story. But
I was almost certain that the mask deck was going to be
Me
good,
too.
and then it just.
I actually have a positive record with it on ladder. Like I think
I did before yesterday.
but I'm only playing the 2-color version with. It's just like it draws a
I
bunch of
tried.
cards and then
I tried that one, and I just couldn't get it to work. I did. Maybe you have a better version than me. You should
I've
probably
cut
link it to me.
Duskwalker from
Well-
there. Like it.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
cut everybody off.
Sorry.
Just
All right.
because, yeah, we're getting like we've been doing this for an hour and 33 minutes. I think that's all of our
There's a
thoughts on the
bunch of
patch,
cards,
right?
though. Yeah.
Like overall, I think it's pretty cool. There are some cards that are disappointing. We have a lot of loose end cards like this Wisp, like the Soldier Synergy, or sorry, the Paladin Synergy card that could be okay later. I think this was a really interesting expansion, and I think it told us a lot about Set 4 and cards we're gonna see.
Yeah.
Um,
Something I want to say that makes me a little bit scared is the fact that because all of their payoff cards are so powerful, like something like Anointer, or like pretty much all of the synergies are really powerful, but not really supported in the amount of units that exist. It kind of makes me scared that they can never print too many good units in any one tribe
Faction.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Because because then they just run the risk of overloading one of
Yeah, I agree.
the subtypes. I don't know. It scares me a little bit that it looks like that. I know Inter, I think, is the most obvious example, but pretty much every tribe has some kind of powerful. I don't know. Ugh.
Over, do you have any final thoughts before we end off?
I think the set was okay. It created a little bit of excitement around some cards. I think that it's basically average. It's between the Jex adventure, which didn't really do anything besides Corey, and then what's the other one?
Horus Traver.
Tale of
Horus Traver, and Horus Traver just introduced a bunch of like
Busted.
busted cards into it. I think that it's a nice, safe balance between the two, to be honest. And I'm kind of excited to explore some of the more esoteric cards, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to say thanks to both Hulk and Over for joining me today. And if you actually watched an hour and 35 minutes into this video, thank you for making it this far. And hopefully,
I mean, they probably listened. I don't think they watched.
no, I did. There's like no funny things. So I made funny faces when you and I disagreed on things. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. And I guess we'll see you next time.